Good morning, everybody. This is Yin Yang in California with morsels of a thought number 1186. Interesting. Good numbers. I am seated. I have a background. This hand. Over here, I have a book. Wickedly Smart Women with a compiler named Angel B. Hartwell. Trusting intuition. Taking action. Transforming worlds. And we are in chapter 4, Whispers of the Soul. And we were here with Stacy Shiflett. We had started it. And, I love this book. We had started it, and that was the one where it said, don't put that there. You're going to knock it over and break it. That car is going to cut in front of you. Be careful. You might want to close the drain before you do that. Now, I had read all that. I received these kinds of messages all the time. I had read, where is it? I've learned that when I choose to ignore these promptings, I regret it as the thing that gets broken. I have to perform a hasty driving maneuver to avoid a collision. Or I drop the tiny little piece in my hand and watch as it hits the counter once, then it bounces into the drain hole with the precision of a trick basketball shot that seemingly defies all odds, I read. But my intuition goes beyond these simple, albeit helpful hints that are now part of my daily life. The end of that paragraph was, sometimes I'm guided to a thought intended for me to explore with the insight that this concept potentially holds a key to my next level of growth. And occasionally I receive information that prophesies the future. I believe the sources of these promptings are as varied as the messages themselves. And that may sound okay. They may emerge from my subconscious to assist me at just the right time with reminders from knowledge I've gained through experience. My higher self, which I call my little voice, may, among other things, prompt me to consider something. Or I may receive a message or interaction with a being from beyond this earthly plane. That may sound like a bold statement, so let me share with you some personal experiences that prove, to me anyway, that something beyond the physical exists. Now, I had read those paragraphs, and I just read you the paragraph that I will overlap to the rest of this. It might not be the rest of this. Let me see how many pages it is. It's a few pages. I was one of those kids that had an invisible friend throughout the earliest years of my life. His name was George, and I can recall introducing my mother to him when she asked me who I was talking to. You see, she was hearing one side of what was obviously a conversation with someone, but with whom? When Mom asked me if I could see him, I said, yes, he's right here. Can't you see him? As I pointed in his direction. My mom fully accepted this explanation with a, nice to meet you, George. She never doubted his existence and always acknowledged him by name. He went everywhere with me. One time, when my little hand was accidentally slammed in the car door, smooshing my little fingers, George was there by my side, soothing and consoling me along with my parents. George was a constant companion for a couple of years, but I have no conscious memory of him by the time I started kindergarten. As a matter of fact, throughout school, I only have two profound memories of these types of encounters. The first was being awakened one night by something tapping me 3 times firmly on the forehead. Thump, thump, thump. I was about 8 when this happened, and I remember laying there, eyes wide open, trying to figure out who had touched me, as there was nobody in the room but me. My entire family was very ill at the time, all of us bedridden. It frightened me, but for some reason I didn't call out for help. In the morning, when I told my mom what had happened, she expressed gratitude, as she had prayed during the night that an angel would heal me. I did indeed heal very quickly after that experience. The second experience with an empty entity beyond the physical was when a presence entered my room late one night while I was in college. I could see him, a figure that appeared as a three-dimensional shadow, most definitely in the shape of a man, as he walked toward and then stood by my bed. The first time I saw him terrified me. I tried screaming, but I couldn't make a sound. I laid there completely frozen with fear, gazing at him, eyes wide open. In a few minutes, he turned from my bedside and walked away, right through the closed door of my bedroom. I really did not know what to make of this situation. However, over time, he and I became friends of sort, as we began to fully accept each other's presence and grew comfortable sharing the space of this home. Quite often, I could hear his footsteps moving through the house after dark. Although he never communicated with me, he did begin to respond to me when I spoke to him. Yes, you heard that right. But for some reason, rather than gliding through the door as if it didn't exist as he did the first time I saw him, he began to use the doorknob to enter my room during the night. As I would hear his footsteps approaching my bedroom, I would lift my head from my studies and gaze at the door. The footsteps would stop outside my door, the doorknob would turn, and as the door began to open, I would say, "Jimmy, not tonight. I'm studying for an exam." And with that command, the door would stop its forward motion, gently close fully, the latch locking into place, and his footsteps would continue walking the path they always walked as he gently faded away. Apparently, Jimmy had friends too, as one night I was awakened by the sounds of a grand party, complete with voices and laughter and harpsichord music emanating from what was originally the salon in that historic house. That was interesting. Over time, he stopped visiting, much like George. Now, consider this. Do you think my experiences would be different had my family discounted my encounters with George as a child? What if they had told me that nothing exists beyond what I can actually see with my eyes? What if they had told me that it was silly and crazy to believe I had an imaginary friend? I think even if I continued to converse with George, I would have learned not to speak of it. I would have learned not to speak of it to be I would have learned not to speak of it to avoid being chastised. There we go. I also may have adopted the belief that there's nothing beyond what we can see with our physical eyes. If that were the case, would it have closed me to other unexplained phenomena throughout my life? Would I have been rendered fearful instead of curious? In my 40s, I was gifted with the thought to acquire a software company valued at tens of millions of dollars. That idea certainly seemed outrageous and impossible, as I had no money to acquire that company, but I followed my intuition with action and fully stepped into creating this reality. Throughout the process, I believed without a doubt that not only would this happen, but that it was meant to happen. And guess what? I acquired that software company, which to this day provided me with financial security. My situation would be remarkably different had I not followed the prompting, particularly given that my 28-year marriage ended shortly thereafter. Was it divinely timed? I think so. A few years ago, I awakened one morning with the powerful idea to move to Sarasota, Florida. I'm originally from Florida, but I have no memory of ever visiting Sarasota, even as a child, let alone have any logical reason to relocate there. However, the message I received was strong, and believing it to be a divine prompting, I followed it with faith. Within 2 weeks, I was on a flight and put a contract on a home on beautiful Siesta Key, which is my primary residence today. How is it that I came to a place in my life where I would literally move forward in faith that I was willing to take action even if I didn't think that my situation at that time could support the idea? It's because I did I've it's because I've developed my field of awareness to expand beyond my known world. That is, what I believe is possible for me, what I think I'm capable of, etc. In other words, I've learned through experience that possibilities far beyond my imagination are available to me. And if they are possible for me, they are also possible for you. I recently heard Michael Beckwith offer an analogy describing fields of awareness or perception with a story about an ant, its hole, and a grain of sugar. Imagine an ant standing halfway between 2 points, the hole on the top of the ant hill it emerged from, and a grain of sugar. From the ant's perspective, the hole is its path. From the ant's perspective, the hole is its past, the sugar is its future, and its position between both is its present. There is time involved in that scenario: past, present, and future. Now imagine that we are standing over the ant gazing at its situation. To us, with our expanded view from a higher elevation, all of this is happening in the now. There is no past or future. We simply acknowledge that the ant is in the act of getting the sugar. This is the same in our lives. If we don't lift our perception, that is, expand our field of awareness beyond that which is immediately known to us, we may miss the bigger picture, which we often do as we humans run consistently on our programming. That's how we're wired. That's how we are wired. 95% of our brain's activity comes from our subconscious programming, what we do automatically without thought. About 5% comes from our creative thinking mind. You can find many studies that support this. Our programming includes our beliefs, our conditioning, and what we regard as possible for us. Sometimes we think something may be possible for someone else, but not for us, based on our beliefs. For example, I could have easily succumbed to the conclusion that there is no way I could acquire a software company with no financial investment. But I chose to ignore my programming and instead believed that I could do it. We can all expand our field of awareness. We can all expand the possibilities in our lives. In order to do that, we need to step beyond the internal programming that is limiting our potential. Lao Tzu said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." That's great, but how do we determine where we are today? Where do we begin? I'm not talking only about an assessment of where we are in terms of our physical situations, our careers, our families, our financial situations, although these are indeed things to consider. What I'm talking about is about how to expand your awareness of what beyond the physical might be constraining your greatness, your beliefs. This isn't a new concept. Perhaps you've read books on this subject, attended seminars, and already know this. Secret Knock is totally behind something like this. But have you expanded beyond the intellectual knowledge you've gained and integrated the practices you've learned into your daily activities? Or do you continue to let your established programs do the heavy lifting in shaping your life? I received a prompting a couple of years ago to create a company called Modern Consciousness. The concept for the company flowed through me, as did information on the current state of our world, including a glimpse of the energies beyond much of what we are experiencing today. It left me a bit dazed, as the energies are quite dark and dense, and the task of creating this company seemed improbable and not very desirable to me on many levels. I resisted the idea for a time for a number of reasons, but I finally surrendered. Had I not, you would not be reading about my story today. In my theory of modern consciousness, capital M, capital C, I see four and it's a trademark. She's got it as a trademark. I see four primary stages of growth. The first stage I call automaton, and it is characterized by running on autopilot, much like a machine that is designed to automatically execute a predetermined sequence of operations based on encoded instructions. This is a valuable stage in our lives as it creates our baseline. I call the next level illuminated skeptic. To me, this phrase doesn't mean someone who doubts possibilities but rather calls to question the status quo of their lives. In other words, they become skeptical that the life they are living is all there is. People in this stage have a willingness to seek out information and learn with an open mind. Their appetite to explore the deeper meaning of life has been whetted, and it's within this phase that we become what I call awakening souls. It is here that we become aware that there just might be more available. It is here that we become aware that there just might be more available to us, and we begin to adopt and align to these new beliefs. This leads us to become transformers of our lives, where we continue to expand our knowledge, and when we begin to embody new behaviors that facilitate not only our personal transformations, but also those within our orbit. There is not a linear progression through these stages. We flow between them. I don't want to publish this story and leave you without something actionable to support your journey. I want to serve you in some meaningful way, an action you can take to begin unraveling the deep, tangled web of beliefs that comprise your subconscious, which means outside of our conscious awareness, is by bringing them into your conscious awareness. How? Create a habit of noticing what triggers you into a negative feeling and then explore why. Think of it this way. Instead of viewing your emotional triggers as annoyances, view them as a treasure map that can lead you toward inner peace. Try to objectively observe your feelings in these situations. Do you notice any patterns of behavior or thought? Once you identify these things, begin questioning them to see if they are supporting you in creating your best life. If not, guess what? You have the power to change it. Carry a little notebook and jot these things down during your day as you notice them. Then, consistently set aside time later in your day to reflect on these situations. Rather than being a faithful servant to your mind, question it. Also, learn to turn down the volume of your thoughts so you can hear your little voice, as I assure you she is speaking to you. As the philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti said, intuition is the whisper of the soul. Listen to the words gently being whispered into your mind and elevate your life. Okay, so this is Stacy Shiflett. Stacy Shiflett. Stacieffifflett. Whispers of the Soul. Here we go. How we can see it now. Stacy Shiflett is right above my marker, right? Bookmark, right there. There we go. So I want to say this was a wonderful, wonderful chapter. This is probably a good summation of what happened at the Secret Knock itself meeting, you know? The thing that we learned at the Secret Knock was pretty much exactly what she's saying in here. It was wonderful that she is the author that came with the publisher to show off this book at the Secret Knock event. They gave us this book and they autographed it for us. And anyway, so Wickedly Smart Women is one of the books I am reading on Miscellaneous Monday. All right, so we are going to talk to you again later. Thank you for staying so long. It has been how many minutes? 18 minutes. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Old Kinderheck.